it's got another one of our silent letters. So that word is island. Kind of looks different because it's the I and the L look the same, but we don't say the S. So we say island.
Even we also say island that man here.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up on a small island. I had to take a ferry everywhere I went. Okay, next slide. Here we are talking about volcanic activity. Shivansh, would you read this one, please? How about Daksh?
Yes, Shivansh, are you there?
Sir, what do you mean waiting room?
No, Shivansh is there.
Would you read,
sir.
please?
Yes,
Yes,
so read now. Read, ma'am is asking you to read.
Okay, sir. A lesson in geography.
Geology.
Geology. Earth's thickened outer shell is broken into large pieces called tectonic
Plates.
tectonic plates. This prize could fit through like a
Pieces.
puzzle, but they do not stay in one place
Instead.
Instead, they slowly move around, floating on a very thick layer of hot liquid rock. This liquid gets its heat and energy from the super hot core of the earth. New Zealand is located in a region where two tectonic plates meet, the Pacific plates and the Australian plates.
Thank you, Shivansh. Great reading. I thought that was, especially on some words that really aren't real common for English speakers all the time. The word tectonic, you did a great job on that. If you look at the picture there, you can see the Australian plate and the Pacific plate, and then there's New Zealand right in the middle of it. Okay, and then the next slide actually I was going to read this. The next slide is going to go into more and give you some more information about this, but I'll read this one now. So please follow along as I'm reading so you can see how we would pronounce these words here in America.
Yeah.
A lesson in geology. Earth's thin outer shell is broken into large pieces called tectonic plates. These pieces could fit together like a puzzle, but they do not stay in one place. Instead, they slowly move around, floating on a very thick layer of hot liquid rock. This liquid gets its heat and energy from the super hot core of the Earth. The core meaning the center. New Zealand is located in a region where two tectonic plates meet, the Pacific plate and the Australian plate. Okay, next slide. Doc, do you want to start this one?
No. When the hot liquid moves to two tectonic plates together, the huge pressure it creates shapes the Earth's landscape. For instance, when one tectonic plate meets and then moves beneath another plate, the upper plate can be pushed up high enough to create mountain range. Rivers and lakes can be created by the changes in the land. Tectonic plates always move slowly, but sometimes they get stuck on each other. An earthquake happens when the pressure on the two stuck plates gets so great that the plates suddenly break loose of each other. We had a small earthquake in the Seattle area on Sunday. Look at the graphic again. The Alpine Fault, where the two plates meet under the South Island, has a mountain range on the right side of it. The mountain range was created when the Pacific plate pushed up and over the Australian plate. On the left side of the fault is a low plain to the water's edge, following the Australian plates downwards.
The fault line that we have here in the Seattle area, which is in Southwest or in Washington State, in the Northwest of the US, we have the same situation there where we're on a fault line where we have two plates coming together and one of them is slowly moving under the other one, which is slowly moving on top. And they must have got stuck because we had that little tiny earthquake the other day. Okay, next slide. Sartak, would you read, please?
Yes, ma'am. The Earth's crust is thinner where two tectonic plates come together, like in New Zealand. As a result of the thinner crust, the thick layer of magma is closer to the surface of the Earth. Magma is extremely hot liquid and semi-liquid rock located under Earth's surface. When magma flows onto Earth's surface, it is called lava. Fresh water can flow down through cracks within the hot magma, causing the water to become very hot. This layer of heated water is called geothermal energy, a term meaning heat that is produced deep in the Earth's core. Geothermal energy is a clean, renewable resource that can be used for heat, electricity, and heating water. Geothermal power plants draw steam from the underground hot water up to surface. This steam rotates turbine that generate electricity in a generator. Geothermal is currently one of the New Zealand's cheapest sources of new electricity generation.
Is this a subject that you students have already studied? Do you know about this kind of energy?
We know it exists, but we haven't studied in detail about it.
Okay. I thought this little graphic was a pretty easy way to understand it, where they pull up the steam that's heated down below, coming from that very hot water, and put it through the turbine, which turns the generator, and then creating the electricity, and then the steam is cooled and gets put back down into the earth because they can't just keep taking steam and water from the earth. That would totally change the underground water table. So they just put everything else back down into the earth. So it's a nice cycle, I think. Okay, let me go ahead and read this and again follow along. And as we talked about last week, I've been putting in words, things that are not necessarily easy words, because part of this in your learning to have better fluency in English is learning how to sound out words. And that's not going to happen if you have the same words that you already know. So I appreciate you all really working to sound out words you're not familiar with. The Earth's crust is thinner where two tectonic plates come together, like in New Zealand. As a result of the thinner crust, the thick layer of magma is closer to the surface of the Earth. Magma is extremely hot liquid and semi-liquid rock located under the Earth's surface. When magma flows onto the Earth's surface, it is called lava. Fresh water can flow down through cracks within the hot magma, causing the water to become very hot. This layer of heated water is called geothermal energy, a term meaning heat that is produced deep in the Earth's core. Geothermal energy is a clean, renewable resource that can be used for heat, electricity, and heating water. Geothermal power plants draw steam from underground hot water up to the surface. This steam rotates turbines that generate electricity in a generator. Geothermal is currently one of New Zealand's cheapest sources of new electricity generation. Sir, can you click on that link and there's a really, I think like a 3-minute video that shows how this works.
Now that we're getting hybrid cloud right, do we know who's getting AI right?
Well, models and data keep growing.
Over 100 years ago, people managed to take advantage of the internal heat of the earth to produce electricity through geothermal plants. Currently, 24 countries produce electricity from geothermal sources. The countries with the best potential for geothermal energy are those near tectonic plate boundaries, where the heat is closer to the surface. Chile is the country with the largest untapped geothermal potential on the planet. How can we light a bulb with the heat of the earth? Or how to produce electricity from geothermal energy? The deeper underground, the higher the temperature. For each kilometer of depth, the temperature rises about 25 degrees Celsius. This heat can be extracted from underground fluids. Through pipes, the hot fluid rises to the surface and part of it transforms into steam, as there is less pressure on the surface than underground. The plant has a separator that receives the mixture of steam and water. Its job is to send steam to a dryer where all traces of moisture will be removed, and the water to a pump that returns the fluid underground. The dry steam drives a turbine. This turbine is connected to a current generator, which spins and generates electricity. Condensed steam is pumped underground with a re-injection pump, returning the fluid to the reservoir. Geothermal plants need to return the fluids used to generate electricity back underground in order to maintain the reservoir pressure. If the fluids are not returned, the plant would stop working. Geothermal is a renewable, clean, and sustainable energy. Chile has a lot of geothermal energy. Let's start using it.
All right.
Wow.
So they have a lot of geothermal energy in New Zealand. Okay, next slide. Maitri, would you read this one, please?
Yes, ma'am. Not all geothermal energy is converted into heat or electricity. In several areas in New Zealand, geothermal activity is evident for visitors to enjoy. Hot springs, geysers, bubbling mud pools, and other natural wonders show the different ways that the superheated water comes up to the Earth's surface. The previous slides showing hot water beach are another example of nature's ability to send water heated deep in the earth up to the surface.
So for some of you who might have missed a session or two, we did have a different slideshow that talked about hot water beach. So, and this is my twin sister and I standing in front of one of the big geysers. That word is pronounced geyser, G-E-Y-S-E-R, geyser. Not all geothermal energy is converted into heat or electricity. In several areas in New Zealand, geothermal activity is evident for visitors to enjoy. Hot springs, geysers, bubbling mud pools, and other natural wonders show the different ways that the superheated water comes up to the Earth's surface. The previous slide showing hot water beach are another example of nature's ability to send water heated deep in the earth up to the surface. Next slide. I think everyone's read now. Have I missed anybody? I think we're back to Manav. Would you read this one, please? Manav?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can I?
Yes, please.
Prior to 1886, people come to stay in hotels in the Wamugu
Good.
Wamugu Valley of New Zealand,
Specifically,
Pacifical to see the European
Eruption.
you got it.
eruption of stem in the
Surrounding.
surrounding areas as shows in the
Shown.
painting yes
Shown.
shown in the painting above. Although the volcanoes
Violent.
violent pollution eruption of 1886 include earthquake and 100-kilometer high plume of
Ash.
ash that banked nearby village. This event crashed a major change of the landscape and all life there was extinguished.
Extinguished.
Assessing this revolution event was the bringing of the new ecosystem ecosystem. An ecosystem is a group of living organisms that lives in a interact with each other in a specific
Environment.
Good. Thank you, Mana. I love this old painting. It just seems cool that people a couple hundred years ago would just come and sit and look out at the steam coming up. Prior to 1886, people came to stay in hotels in the Waimango Valley of New Zealand. Specifically, that means specifically to see the eruptions of steam in the surrounding area, as shown in the painting above. The violent volcanic eruption of 1886 included earthquakes and a 10-kilometer high column of ash that blanketed nearby villages. These events caused a major change of the landscape, and all life there was extinguished or put out, like when you use a fire extinguisher to put out a fire. So all life was ended. Animal life and plant life was just gone. This devastating event was the beginning of a new ecosystem. An ecosystem is a group of living organisms that live in and interact with each other in a specific environment. Okay. Next slide. Shivansh, I think you were next.
The slide shows the same area that was painted in the picture on the previous slide. Go back to that slide to see the landscape in the late 1880s, then back to the picture to see advances of the new
Evidence.
ecosystem events of the new ecosystem that built itself up after in 1886 eruption from the 1890s onwards. The valley was gradually repolluted naturally by plants ranging for hot water loving algae and bacteria to mosses and many special of native
Species.
cereals, shrubs, and trees. This is turn support native birdlife plus bird species that were included to the area of politicians of back when now
thrives here. Thank you. Sir, would you go back really quickly to the previous slide? Look at the landscape here. It looks pretty barren. Which means there's not much on it. It looks like there's a lot of rock showing,
Yeah.
maybe some trees. And then go to this next slide we were just on. And this is how it looks today. And that's the top of a forest. So some of the plants that you see down in front on the left are ferns. And here at home, we have ferns that are just a foot or two tall. But they have ferns there in New Zealand that are like trees. So what a difference. The earth got covered with that volcanic ash, and it covered everything. So nothing could live. And then little by little, nature just recreated itself. That's why it says it's a new ecosystem, because these are all totally new plants and animals that had not lived there before. So that's kind of the mystery of nature, that it destroyed itself with the volcano, and then it came back in a totally new form. Okay. Did I read this one? No, I did not. This slide shows the same area that was painted in the picture on the previous slide. Go back to that slide to see the landscape in the late 1880s, and back to this picture to see the evidence, or to see the proof, to see the evidence of the new ecosystem that built itself up after the 1886 eruption. From the 1890s onwards, the valley was gradually repopulated naturally by plants ranging from hot water-loving algae and bacteria to mosses and many species of native ferns, shrubs, and trees. These in turn support native bird life, plus bird species that were introduced to the area. A population of black swan now thrives nearby. The word thrive means to do very well. So it's thriving, meaning it's living very well there. Ma'am Sue?
Hi.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I thought you had something to say. Next slide, please.
Good morning, ma'am Susan.
Good morning. Good to see everybody.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good to see you also. Welcome back.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Doc, would you read now, please?
Yes, ma'am. The plants in the area of the eruption are now lush and green, and some of them are very tall. Prior to the eruption in 1886, the landscape was more barren. The brown film on the lake is minerals that come up with the superheated water.
Good. The plants in the area of the eruption are now lush and green, and some of them are very tall. Prior to the eruption in 1886, do you know the word prior? I just realized that might not be a common word. That means before. So before or prior to the eruption in 1886, the landscape was more barren, meaning there wasn't much there. The brown film on the lake is minerals that come up with the superheated water. Next slide.
Oh. Yeah, the water is gushing up.
Super hot water, doesn't it?
Wow. So scary it is.
Yeah, they had little fences on the trail to keep us out of there.
Ah.
Okay, who's next? Manap, are you next?
Ma'am, I think after Shivansh.
Okay, Shivansh.
Shivan just did, no?
Ma'am, I will read second paragraph.
Ma'am, मैं three, ma'am.
Shivansh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you read, please?
Yes, ma'am. The Mori used hot pools like this one to cook food all through only certain types of hot pool were used for cooking. Food was lowered into the steaming water in bags made for reeds. Today, you can go to certain restaurants and cook your menu.
Meal.
In the old
Meal.
tradition of lowering the food into the steaming hot pool, a perfect soft centered egg cooks in 7 minutes. Sugar,
Sausages.
Sausages.
what's a
Sausages.
sausage in 10 minutes, and frozen corn in 10 to 15 minutes using this method.
Can you imagine how dangerous it was for whoever was cooking? And I'm making an assumption it was probably the women that were cooking. How dangerous it was for them to be cooking near that boiling hot water. It would be like instant death if you fell in. It's so hot. And that's how they cooked their food. The Maori used hot pools like this one to cook food, although only certain types of hot pools were used for cooking. Food was lowered into the steaming water in bags made from reeds. Today, you can go to certain restaurants that cook your meal in the old tradition of lowering the food into a steaming hot pool. A perfect soft-centered egg cooks in 7 minutes, sausages in 10 minutes, and frozen corn in 10 to 15 minutes using this method. Okay. Next slide. Your turn, Mona.
Yes, ma'am. This picture shows the several explains of how the examples of how the 1886 eruptions
Impacted.
impacted the area. Look at the size of the frame found in the lower right corner. It is one where it is in one of the many plants that grow much larger here than are seen elsewhere.
It's two words put together. Elsewhere.
As there are several stems, visible and the surface of the water injection in this range
Mona, try that word again. You almost have it. Give it another try.
indicates that water in bubbling up under the surface.
Nice reading. Thank you for taking the time to really get those words. You did a great job on that. I love this picture because you can see the steam rising up. And that's not from the water, that's from a steam vent somewhere up on the hill. And then the water is moving, so something's bubbling down there as well. This picture shows several, meaning more than one or two, several examples of how the 1886 eruption impacted the area. Look at the size of the fern frond. The frond is like their branch. Look at the size of the fern frond in the lower right corner. It is one of the many plants that grow much larger here than are seen elsewhere. There are several steam vents visible, and the surface of the water indicates that water is bubbling up under the surface. Next slide. Daksh, I guess it's your turn.
Yes, ma'am. A nice walking path took us past many examples of the geothermal activity all along the way. Signs warned visitors not to touch the water or mud because they were so hot that severe burns would occur immediately upon contact.
Remember that the slide from Hot Water Beach, there was that big sign that said danger, extremely hot water. And that's what we saw here. A nice walking path took us past many examples of geothermal activity. All along the way, signs warned visitors not to touch the water or mud because they were so hot that severe burns would occur immediately upon contact. Just think, all these plants that are all around the lake, they have to be used to the temperature of the water too. You know, the plants that are growing around here or perhaps around you, they're not used to living in super hot water. So these plants, when the earth was repopulating itself in that area, the plants that came back around these hot ponds or steam areas somehow learned to live with that hot temperature. So there wouldn't be the exact same plants around a normal cold lake. Hi, Sartak, would you read the next one? Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am. There seemed to be a different type of geothermal energy around every bend in the walking path. This pool was very interesting to me. The water was clear and steamy, yet it was surrounded by a white powder all around the edges. I believe the white powder was a mineral that remained after hot water vapor evaporated.
Yep, evaporated. This is kind of different too, because there was so much bright green in color all around this area. And then this pool was just kind of brown and white. There seemed to be a different type of geothermal energy around every bend in the walking path. This pool was very interesting to me. The water was clear and steaming, yet it was surrounded by a white powder all around the edges. I believe the white powder was a mineral that remained after hot water evaporated.
Ma'am, Lesa, I'm wondering if you could describe how it smelled when you're walking by there.
There's going to be slides later that talk about that, but it smelled a little bit like rotten eggs.
Yeah, that's sulfur.
The smell of sulfur. And actually, I think it's in the next slideshow that I've already created or I'm working on that there's some information specifically about that. But when the steam comes up from underground, part of the transition from water to steam releases certain chemicals, and one of them is sulfur, and it smells like rotten eggs. So it doesn't smell very good in this area unless the wind is blowing. But that's just the natural part of geothermal areas. Again, the next slideshow will have some information about that. Okay, next one.